Hi, I'm Dr. Aimie, and I wanted to share a personal story today to again characterize the chronic effects of trauma and what it does to the body. And I remember that as a kid, I would numb a lot of my feelings through exercising a lot. And a lot of that exercising was on my bike, and I would bike everywhere, and I would always push myself really hard. And at the time, I did not know that I was using it to numb the emotional stress and pain that I was experiencing, but it's definitely worked, and my nervous system knew that. And so once the nervous system finds something that works, it's going to keep on going back to that, even if there's negative consequences that develop from it later on. It knows that it works to decrease the emotional overwhelm that a person can feel, especially with chronic trauma where there's many situations where it's too much too fast, or in situations where it's too little for too long, and the system just shuts down because of the survival response that's triggered by those situations. So I pulled out a card from the internal family systems that sort of characterizes overexercising as a form of numbing. And in this card, you can see that it is running on exhaustion, and that really is what helps numb the emotional pain, because all you can feel is the physical pain from the sore muscles and also some of the endorphins that come through the heavy exercise also help the numbing effect, right? Because those are opiates that numb pain. And I had a recent experience where, because my health has been in a much better place, because of my work on my system over the last couple of years, I've been getting back into biking. And I had a race recently. It was interesting because towards the last quarter of the race, and I was out in a place where I was all alone, and I had been pushing myself pretty hard for a couple hours, and I felt all of that same stuff that I had felt in childhood, where it's this like soul deep exhaustion and frustration and anger that that I had felt, and felt the need to numb. And it seemed that because I was pushing myself as hard as and for as long as I would in my childhood to numb, now that I was in this situation and I had no need to numb, everything had been, going the same fine in life, so that there weren't any big emotional triggers for me to need to feel like I had to numb. But it's those same sensations and the same body sensations that trigger prior times when we have felt that way. And that seems to be what happened, where at that point in the race, I had reached the point at which the numbing effect was starting to take place. And now it was more jolting to my system. And it was a really uncomfortable process of, no, like I don't want to go there anymore. I don't want to go to this place where I don't care. I'm so exhausted physically that I just don't care what happens to me. I don't care what somebody does to me. I just don't care. That type of numbing. So I think that, as we're recovering from trauma, we have to be aware of these feelings that will be triggered. And it's helpful to understand where the trigger is coming from. But even if we don't understand where the trigger is coming from, understand that it's coming from a trauma place, and just be really gentle and really compassionate with yourself, because it's not something that you can control in that moment. It's sort of relating back to that story of trauma is like standing in a 1/4 inch of water in the bathtub and feeling like you're drowning, where it makes no logical sense why you're panicking, why you're feeling this way at this moment. But somehow those sensations are connected to things that were really scary, really overwhelming in the past. And so those same sensations now are triggering the same feelings of overwhelm that you experienced earlier. Understanding that, being really gentle and really compassionate can help you come out of those situations faster when they do happen. And then if you're working with a therapist, that's something that's really helpful to bring up, so you can explore, when have I felt this way before, that this situation triggered this type of reaction from me? And that can be super enlightening and bring so much more awareness and healing to your system, understanding why you had that reaction and then working on that reaction. So I hope you found this helpful. If there's any stories that you have of situations that you've been in that had the same physical sensation that triggered emotional responses or reactions, certainly feel free to share. I'd love to hear those.